Breaking news alert.
And I'm Josh Chapin in for Michelle Marsh this noon. We begin with that breaking news again at noon. The Vatican announcing this morning the death of Pope Francis. The Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Northeast is ringing the bells right now 88 times to acknowledge the age of the late pontiff. Our John Gonzalez is there now live with more on the influence that the Pope had right here in Northeast, John.
That's right, Josh. Good afternoon. We can hear the bells. They just started just seconds ago. They will toll 88 times in honor of Pope Francis, who died at the age of 88. And in just minutes, inside the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception, there will be a special mass taking place. And you can see the black bunting is already draped over the main entrance here at the Basilica. Now, we spoke with Monsignor Walter Rossi here at the Basilica. He told us that even though the pontiff had been sick for some time, they are still quite saddened and stunned by this. For 12 years, Pope Francis led the church and captivated millions around the world with his subtle yet passionate approach. He had a charming way, a humble and modest affection, especially for the poor and marginalized. The first Latin American and Jesuit Pope also challenged the church and its traditional views at times, expressing his universal love for all. Now, the death of Pope Francis now sets in motion a series of carefully orchestrated rites and rituals. It begins almost immediately. His body will lie in state at the Vatican starting this evening. It will lie there while the mourning resumes. 9 days of mourning for the church, followed immediately by the conclave where the College of Cardinals will gather in Rome and select a successor. Monsignor Rossi described earlier a very practical pope who joked with him when he visited Washington nearly 10 years ago, walking into the shrine here in Northeast D.C., saying, "I bet it cost a lot to run this place."
Without question, we all woke up this morning to a great shock. Yesterday, the Holy Father was going through St. Peter's Square. He was on the balcony of St. Peter's giving the Urbi et Orbi blessing. And this morning we wake up to the Holy Father having died. When anyone dies, it's a great shock. Whenever anyone dies, it's sadness. When someone dies who is close to, it's even more sad. And for the Church, the Holy Father is our Father.
And the bells continue to toll at a very slow pace at this hour. Newly appointed Archbishop Robert McElroy and Cardinal Wilton Gregory are both here for this special mass this afternoon. In the coming days, they will be traveling to the Vatican for the funeral of Pope Francis and then, of course, the conclave. They both will be able to vote during that conclave, voting for a new pope. Reporting live in Washington, John Gonzalez, 7 News.
John, an emotional day there. Thank you. We now are joined by Dr. Joseph Capizzi, who serves as the Dean of the School of Theology and Religious Studies at Catholic University, joining us to talk about the Pope and his legacy. Dr. Capizzi, we really appreciate your spending a couple of minutes with us this morning.
My pleasure to be with you.
Dr. Capizzi, just really simple, how are you handling the news today?
A mixture of grief and hope, which was something that the Pope always called us to. Of course, it was a surprise to wake up to his death this morning. On the other hand, he had been ill for such a long time. I think we knew that this was going to come sooner rather than later. But on the other hand, the church moves forward and she'll find a new pope to lead her. And I think there are many of us who, are looking forward to where the church will be led.
We saw him yesterday. It was such a captivating moment, meeting with the vice president and then coming out to address everyone on this Easter Sunday. I don't know what your takeaway was from that, just his making it all the way to Holy Sunday.
His strength of will, the same will and fortitude that carried him through that last illness in the hospital when it looked like he was going to pass away, was evident yesterday when obviously the best thing he could have done would be to rest in bed and to avoid people. But this is a person who got energy from being around people and understood that he was a servant first. And the people he visited with yesterday, he was serving them one last time. So it's a beautiful, beautiful moment in his own life and in the history of the church.
And would you like to comment a little bit more, Dr. Capizzi, about Pope Francis's legacy?
Yeah, simplicity and humility were the two sort of key features of his pontificate, that he was like sort of reducing the adornment that was associated with the office and increasing the accessibility that people could have to the Pope, and calling all of us to follow him and sort of get rid of the trappings of our routine lives and go out into the world where there are many people suffering, especially those people that we don't typically notice: homeless, migrants, prisoners, the disabled, the unborn. I mean, these are the people that he surrounded himself with as much as he could, and he was asking all of us to follow him as he was following Christ in those opportunities.
An incredible legacy Pope Francis leaves behind. Dr. Joseph Capizzi, Dean of the School of Theology and Religious Studies at Catholic University, thank you for being with us and sharing some of that today with us here on 7 News at noon. All right, we're going to move on now to this statement issued by Cardinal Robert McElroy, the Archbishop of Washington, D.C. You'll remember he just started a couple of months ago. Today, the church and the world have lost a true shepherd of souls, a beacon of unwavering hope, and a voice of penetrating truth. From the very first moments of his service to the universal church, Pope Francis enshrined the mercy of God at the heart of his proclamation of the gospel of Jesus Christ. As people around the world mourn the loss of Pope Francis, we also have a look at what's next. Cardinals are getting ready to assemble inside the Sistine Chapel to elect a successor. ABC's Michael Strahan has more on the secrecy of the papal conclave.
It's an enduring display we've seen throughout history.
It was early evening here when the primitive signal, white smoke for a new pope, curled from the small metal chimney high over St. Peter's Square.
The white smoke billowing out of the Vatican Sistine Chapel, signifying the selection of a new pope, followed by a procession to the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica.
A calm, gentle Cardinal Bergoglio, now Pope Francis.
The selection, a result of a centuries-old process. The papal conclave, typically occurring 15 to 20 days after a pope's death. The church's cardinals gathering in a secluded area inside Vatican City, devoid of contact with the outside world.
They're pretty careful about secrecy. The cardinals are allowed no outside contact once the conclave begins. The idea is to shield them from any influence that might happen in the media. And they do their best at the Vatican in terms of security to make sure that people can't hear vibrations through the windows.
There, they will spend time in silence and prayer as they pore over contenders. 136 cardinals are currently eligible to vote for the new pope. They will consider many factors.
They're all looking for the one that they feel the Holy Spirit is pointing to. It's someone who has some Vatican experience, who's pastoral, who speaks multiple languages, who is respected. Age has something to do with it. You don't want someone too young who's going to be there for 40 years. You also don't want someone too old.
When the time comes to vote, they'll head inside the Sistine Chapel, sitting in silence in 2 rows on either side, filling out ballots in Latin before going up in front of the altar to cast them. Once all the cardinals have voted, the ballots are counted, read aloud, and noted before being burned in an iron stove. Black smoke signals the votes didn't secure a 2/3 majority. If that happens, the cardinals return to vote twice in the morning and twice in the evening until a new pope is confirmed alongside his new papal name. The ballots from the final round producing that iconic white smoke.
Michael Strahan, thank you. A few names have been floated among the church's cardinals as to who could be next up. The Vatican Secretary of State Pietro Parolin is one of them. Peter Turkson of Ghana, another. Peter Erdo of Hungary, and Luis Tagli, the prefect of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples, have all received some speculation. We'll keep you posted up.